I want to show you really quickly, and it only takes less than a minute to make the perfect pie crust, which is a very essential thing. I think people should know how to make pie crust, Betty, don't you?
I think they should.
And you too.
They shouldn't get to my age and not know how.
So 2½ cups of all-purpose unbleached flour, like a Hecker's or a King Arthur, 1 teaspoon of salt, and I do always put a teaspoon of sugar in mine. Can we have some sugar, Wes? And I just turn on the Cuisinart, and I just mix the salt in with the flour. I always put a little bit of sugar in. I don't know why.
I think you got sugar coming up.
He's going to bring it out. 1 cup of butter, which is 2 sticks of unsalted, ice-cold butter. And I have a rule, Betty. You make it cold, the pastry, and you bake it really hot. Those are 2 golden rules. Here's some sugar. I'll just put in a teaspoon of sugar. So
the butter,
I feel it. It's really cold.
Oh, yeah.
See?
No.
The butter should be cold, the water should be cold, the flour should be cold, and you just...
What a good secret.
Run it like this, and if you were timing the actual work here without the talk, but we're multitasking because I'm talking to a fabulous guest at the same time. You! There. And just process it until it's sort of like a coarse oatmeal. Just like that, see? Not overly processed. You want still flecks of that golden butter in it.
Got it.
And then we have a ½ cup of iced water. And can you hold that for me?
Sure, I can do that. Watch this.
Yeah. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of water, and it just depends. Depends on the day, really, on the humidity of the day. It might take ¼ cup. It might take ½ cup.
How do you tell that?
Well, I'm looking at it, and I can see when it starts to get into, not a ball. You don't want a ball for this. See, I've only used ¼ cup, and it's looking almost right. I'll just put a little bit more.
So
see how it's now going around the outside?
Yeah, it's a sight thing, really.
It is. For me, it's a sight thing. And so and then take a handful of it and squeeze it like that, and it's nicely together. That's it. So that took about 30 seconds, even though Joey over here would tell me it took how many minutes, Joey? 3? A minute and a half. He knows. He has the time in his brain. So now we want to turn this out onto a plastic wrap. And again,
we're going to use anything.
Yeah, you can just hold the paper there like that and pull it up this way.
Okay.
So I'm going to put in about 2/3 in one pile, because that's going to be the bottom of the crust, and 1/3 on another piece of paper. We're going to make discs. You know, a lot of recipes say, oh, make a ball of pastry and chill it. So then you have this big ball of pastry, then you have to wait for it to get a little bit unchilled.
So you chilled it inside out?
In discs, yeah, just a disc. So because
it's better to take that thing out of it, though, before you break it.
Yeah, don't leave this in.
No.
I think it's a better idea.
See, I have an instinct.
Yes, you do. You have the right instincts. Here, now you can gather this up into a disc, just like this. Pull it around. Yeah, pull it around and form it into a disc. And then we're going to chill this for at least a ½ hour until it gets quite cold. And
is there such a thing as overhandling it?
No, yeah, you can definitely overhandle it. But see, what I want you to do is make a flat disc.
That, like that.
And get all those little crumbs.
Oh, got it.
Incorporated into your disc first. And I'm just doing it this way so that I don't get my hands all dirty to get on to the next step.
Wait till I show my housekeeper what I can do.
Exactly. So there you have a beautiful disc of pastry. And so now you can wrap it up completely, completely enclose it. And you want it a flat round. Yeah, that's good. And so we're going to chill this. And, no. Not that flat. Okay, and then we're going to roll. Now, Betty, you have around here. Why don't you cut the leaves? These are going to be the decorative leaves. Just cut it like this.
Okay.
And then push them out onto the parchment.
Got it.
Just make a lot of leaves. And the excess can go right here. And I'm just going to roll out the bottom crust. Now, the writing in your programs, all of your shows, has been phenomenal.
They are just well, we get the credit, Martha, honest Injun, and it's all what's on that paper. You can't save a bad show. You can screw up a good show, but you can't save a bad show.
Yeah.
Mark Cherry came to us straight from UCLA, who is now this big, huge producer. I'm so thrilled for Mark, because it's funny. Most people, when they get to that degree of success, it's, oh, yes, the show's doing very well, and they're very blasé. We went, when the first DVD of Golden Girls came out, Mark was there because of being a writer, and he said, Betty, do you believe what's happening with the show? Isn't it wonderful? And he was jumping up and down, and I loved him for that enthusiasm.
Well, he's still a fabulous writer. Now, so you press your whole bottom crust in here, use a little bit of egg wash, which is 1 egg and some cream around the edge, and apply around this whole edge your beautiful leaves cut by Betty White.
I don't know whether I've
all
done
around here. Oh, you've done a lot, like this, all the way around the edge. Then you line this with a little parchment paper, wait, freeze it for 20 minutes, and then you bake it really hot. This is the filling. And Betty just loves this recipe. Oh. And you're gonna love what it tastes like. 3 eggs, 1½ cups of evaporated milk right out of the can. It's that rich milk, you know, that's tasty. 1½ cups of solid packed pumpkin, or if you roast your own pumpkin, just make sure you're using 1½ cups of pureed pumpkin. 3/4 of a cup of light brown sugar, 3/4 of a teaspoon of powdered ginger. I love ginger. 3/4 of a teaspoon of cinnamon. So this is all for a 9-inch pie. If you want to make a bigger pie, you can do this 1½ times or 2 times. 1/8 of a teaspoon of freshly grated nutmeg. 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, just to keep the pumpkin a little bit thicker, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and 1/2 teaspoon of good vanilla. So all that gets mixed up together.
And where do you get the person who puts all those little dishes together?
Well, that you have to look really hard for. So all this gets poured right in. Oh, this is what the crust looks like after it is pre-baked for about 20 minutes. So it's a little golden on the edges. It's already started to cook. So this now goes right in. You have your oven preheated at 350 degrees, and you bake this for 50 to 60 minutes. And it turns out to look, Betty, like this.
Sorry.
Isn't that beautiful? And we baked extra little leaves so that they can go around on the top. And always it's that glazing with the egg and cream that makes these leaves so beautiful. Would you like a piece?
Oh, they are so pretty.
Would you like a taste?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, and whipped cream, absolutely important. And Wes and Angie have a treat for everyone in the audience, little mini pumpkin tarts. Welcome back. I'm here with Al Roker, and I'm now going to teach him how to make a wonderful pumpkin spice cake with honey frosting, which can be found in our Everyday Food magazine. Ooh. And I'm happy to announce that just this week, Ad Age, a very important newspaper, announced that Everyday Food was awarded Launch of the Year. And to celebrate, everybody in the audience is getting a copy.
All right.
And if you haven't tried, the recipes are really simple and straightforward. Yeah. And don't take up a lot of ingredients, and
which we like.
We've been very happy with this. So this is a really a 1 bowl kind of, well, actually a 2 bowl cake. You could do it all in 1 bowl if you wanted to.
But you know, they're bowls.
Yeah.
So you wash 1 more bowl. What's the big deal?
So we mix up the dry ingredients first. 2½ cups of flour, and you know, you don't have to sift anymore.
You know, I was wondering about that.
Yeah, because if you use a wire whisk like this, it really does aerate and knock out all the lumps. And 1 tablespoon of pumpkin pie spice.
I love the smell of pumpkin pie spice.
But you can buy pumpkin pie spice, which I have never done in my entire existence. But
what goes into pumpkin pie spice?
But well, all of these things: cinnamon, ground cinnamon, ground nutmeg, allspice, cloves, and ginger. So, but it does come packaged now as pumpkin pie spice.
For you lazy slackers out there, how dare you buy it?
2 teaspoons of baking soda. And 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So again, all the dry ingredients, and 1½ cups of sugar. So there, that looks like it's gone through a sifter, right?
That really does.
Great. Like now the wet ingredients. So 2 eggs.
2 eggs.
You can just dump them in here, there, and the pumpkin.
Okay.
And it's 1 can of solid packed pumpkin, or the equivalent in homemade roasted pumpkin. And so you can mix these together, and the butter too. And we have
everything's better with butter.
Yep. And that is 1/2 cup of butter, which is 1 stick of butter. And there, so that's all mixed together. And
it's a nice color.
Yeah. And then, while you whisk, I'll just pour the dry in. Slow down a little.
Okay.
Over-enthusiastic baker.
That's me. Can you harm the cake if you're beating it too fast?
Yeah, you can overbeat, but you're not overbeating.
Beat it.
Okay, so that might be hard. So now shake. Uh-oh, you can get your tile covered with flour. Here, now just shake that off, and then we'll finish it off with a rubber scraper. There. And so it's kind of a dry batter. So that's the buttered pan. And this is a really delicious pie. Excuse me. This is a delicious cake. Wes and Angie. They have little cupcakes for all of you.
Ooh.
So this gets over here. It's very simple. It's a very simple recipe. And you bake it in a 350-degree oven for about 40 minutes. And you can make them into little cupcakes, which you could give on Halloween night.
That would be very nice.
Wouldn't that be nice? And the kids would love having that as they come to the door. And of course, don't forget the other treats because they always get disappointed.
Yeah, they still want the candy bar.
They do.
Here's my problem. You know when you get those little like Three Musketeers bars that say fun size?
Right.
To me, that's not fun. I want one that's about 3 or 4 times the size of the normal one. That would be fun.
You're right.
Come on.
So what do you give out at the door?
You know what? I'm a big fan. I like the Twix bar. I like the Three Musketeers. The Nestle's Crunch bar. That's very popular.
Yeah, those are good.
We like those.
So that goes into the 350 oven, and when it comes out, this is what you have. It's a perfect cake. And to cut it into equal squares, I always cut it in half first, and then in half again. You do that too, right?
Well, see, in my house, normally it's just you cut it in quarters, and that's it. You're done.
I don't believe you.
Well, see, you've never had my family come over.
I do not believe you. So this gets.
Oh, that's
this
perfect.
is very nice. So you get 16 nice squares, and the frosting is delicious. And you can just serve it with the frosting on top like this, and it's honey.
Ooh.
And cream cheese, and taste that.
That's perfect. Wow.
I think you'll like that.
That's
so
fabulous.
how does the audience like those little cupcakes?
That's tasty.
Tasty, huh?
You know what would be good to eat these? You know what? It would be perfect to eat this cake?
What?
Saturday night at 7 o'clock when I'm hosting the Quill Awards on NBC.
Oh, thank you for mentioning
No, I just thought I'd throw that in.
Oh, no, thank you.
It's the very first People's Choice Awards for readers. And they pick the books, they vote on them, and this is a perfect dessert to be eating. And you know what? Next year, I am sure Martha's Rules will be one of the nominees for the business book.
Oh, well, I hope so. Thank you. Our test kitchen was really excited with the outcome of this recipe for gluten-free spiced pumpkin pie with a crisp rice crust. It all began with the creative use of a crunchy rice cereal combined with a mixture of butter, brown sugar, and almonds. And that crust is just pressed into a pie plate, and it looks just like a crumb crust. So it's very easy to make. 3 cups of gluten-free rice cereal. And it says it right on the box, gluten-free. 1/4 cup plus a tablespoon of light brown sugar. 1/2 cup of almonds. They can be raw almonds that are sliced or whole. Either will work. And 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And butter, 5 tablespoons of butter, which I'll add. I'm going to grind this up a little bit first. When you're grinding almonds or any kind of nuts, make sure that your blade of your food processor is sharp. And now add your butter, 5 tablespoons of melted butter. So that looks good. And now this can be just dumped right into, I like using glass because I can see if the bottom of the crust is well made. Well baked, I should say. And this is a 9-inch glass pie plate. And spread this into an even layer, a little thicker on the outside than in the center. And you can use the back of your hand, your fingers if you'd like. That's how we always used to do it until we found out that pressing with a little metal cup measure works very well and quickly. This can just press your crust into a nice even layer. Look how nice, this works so well. And preheat your oven to 375 degrees. Try to make the sides all equal thickness and just pop this into your oven and make the filling. Takes about 12 minutes. And now for the pumpkin filling, the spicy pumpkin filling, 1.5 cups of pumpkin puree. This can be homemade. Of course, it can also be canned. Pumpkin is one of the nicest foods that you can get out of a can. 3 eggs, and whisk the eggs into the pumpkin. It's a custardy filling, very similar to a traditional pumpkin pie. You can also use any number of squashes for this pie too. Instead of pumpkin, you could use the wonderful butternut squash, acorn squash, kabocha squash. They all make very nice pie fillings. And 3/4 of a cup of light brown sugar, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, some cornstarch, about 1 tablespoon will do, just in case your squash is a little wet, a pinch of cloves, and some cinnamon, 1 teaspoon. Also, my favorite, nutmeg. Just about 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. So stir this up. Brown sugar gets lumpy and dry really fast, which is why we keep it in a sealed container. And it'll be very hard to break up if it gets too dry. So you can just add this right to your pumpkin. And now add 1 cup of milk, whole milk. Some people might use cream, but the milk works very nicely. Make sure that your oven is set to 325 degrees. But you can see it's nice and silky smooth. Get this right into your pie crust. This rice crust, which is gluten-free, can be used with a filling of cream, of chiffon or custard. Chocolate is very good. You can experiment, but it's a very nice crust to have on hand when you want to make a delicious pie. There, get that right into your oven. It's going to take about 50 to 55 minutes. So for the topping for this delicious pumpkin pie, we're not done. Yogurt, 3 cups of yogurt, 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla, and 3 tablespoons of honey. And this you just dollop right on top. Use a nice thick yogurt, like a Greek style. So just spoon this right on top. You want to just cover the whole pie with your yogurt. Looks so beautiful. And you can just put this back into the fridge to chill a little bit until you're ready to serve. And there you have a spicy, gluten-free pumpkin pie. You can experiment with all sorts of fillings for this unique crust, but this one just might turn out to be your favorite. Enjoy. Spiced pumpkin whoopie pies, and I'm going to fill them with a cream cheese frosting. At our house up in Maine, whoopie pies are very popular. 3 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of coarse salt, 2 tablespoons of cinnamon, 1 tablespoon of cloves, all the flavors that go into a good pumpkin pie filling, and 1 tablespoon of powdered ginger. Also add a teaspoon of baking powder and a teaspoon of baking soda. These will help the whoopie pies get nice and fluffy. So this is the dry ingredients, which will be added to the pumpkin filling. Now, the pumpkin,
3 cups of pumpkin puree. You can make your own pumpkin puree if you care to, but you can also use canned pumpkin. 1 teaspoon of vanilla, a cup of vegetable oil, and we're using unflavored vegetable oil, like a safflower oil will do. 2 cups of dark brown sugar, packed, and 2 eggs. So all of these ingredients go into this bowl. Use your whisk and stir all of this together. Looks like a lot. It is a lot. Makes 12 finished whoopie pies. Smells so good. It gets you in the mood for the autumn. And now add your dry ingredients. You can sprinkle the dry ingredients a little at a time. Put this over here and whisk this in. It's a nice batter because you don't have to get out the mixer. You can make lots and lots of these. It's great to have them for a party. I remember going to a party last summer and they had maybe 4 or 5 different flavors of whoopie pies. That was the dessert and people went nuts. The batter gets heavier and heavier. So at one point you'll find that the whisk is not going to do it, and you can use your big scraper to finally incorporate everything together. And I find it's best to scoop these cookies onto parchment-lined baking sheets with an ice cream scoop so that you have all identically sized cookies. If they're all different shapes, they won't fit together nicely and they won't look like whoopie pies. So each sheet will take about 8 cookies. But make this level scoop. So make sure your oven is preheated to 350 degrees. Bake until the cookies just start to crack on top and a toothpick inserted into the center comes out clean. That'll take about 15 minutes. Let cool completely in the pan on a wire rack. So for the cream cheese frosting, it's the same recipe we all love and adore. 1 stick of butter, 8 ounces of cream cheese. Let that get nicely creamed. 3 cups of sifted confectioner's sugar. Get all those lumps out of that confectioner's sugar. And 1 teaspoon of the best vanilla. Let's make sure that's really mixed with the butter. And what I like about the cream cheese frosting is that it's not only tasty, but it's so easy to use. And it will take 3 cups of confectioner's sugar. And so that is your beautiful, creamy cream cheese frosting. So great. Now this can be made up to a day in advance. Just keep it in a bowl in the fridge, well covered, and then pipe it between your pumpkin whoopie pie halves. And I'll show you how easy that is. We have a bag already filled. This is what the whoopie pies look like when they're cooled. See a little bit of cracking on the top, nicely flat on the bottom, all a uniform size. So pipe a large dollop of frosting on half of each whoopie pie, then top with the other half. So neat, so uniform, so utterly delicious. Make sure you chill these whoopie pies for 30 minutes before you serve them, and you can keep them well wrapped for up to 3 days. Aren't those cute? These are so easy, so delicious. I guarantee you'll be making them again and again for your family and your friends. Enjoy. For a very fantastic, dazzling, two-toned effect, you swirl some pumpkin puree into a beautiful cheesecake batter. This is a mouth-watering pumpkin swirl cheesecake. First, you'll need a springform pan like this. This is 9-inch. Fit this into the springform. So tighten your springform. Cut a round of parchment that fits exactly in the bottom. So now your pan is ready for the graham cracker crust that fits right down in the bottom. This is very simple to make, and I'm sure you've all made such things before. 1 cup very finely ground graham crackers with 2 tablespoons of sugar. Mix that together. And 2 tablespoons of melted butter. Always seems that how can this hold together? But it does. Stir this together. Graham crackers are a very dry, tasty cracker. You could use chocolate wafers or even vanilla wafers for the crust, but I like the taste of graham with pumpkin. And just pour the whole mixture into the bottom. Spread it out into as even a layer as possible, and then compress it. I find it very easy to do this quickly and efficiently with the bottom of a glass. Now this gets pre-baked in a 350 preheated oven. Just bake it until it's set, 10 minutes or so. So now for the filling. This is a cream cheese filling, and we're using 2 pounds, yes, 2 pounds of best quality cream cheese. So this is nice and smooth. Add 1.5 cups plus 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar. This is a large amount of filling to fit that 9-inch graham cracker crust lined cake pan. Break into a bowl 4 eggs. You can add them one at a time to your filling. That's 1. Cheesecakes are so fun to make and easy, and they are also very, very popular. And there goes the 4th egg. And don't forget 1 teaspoon of best quality vanilla and a pinch of salt. So scrape down your bowl. That's the filling. How simple is that? You could make a cheesecake just with this filling, but for a spectacular presentation, it's kind of fun to add some pumpkin to a portion of this filling and swirl it in. Add 1/4 of the filling into 1 cup of pureed pumpkin. Add some cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon, and some freshly grated nutmeg. About 1/4 of a teaspoon, which is about 1/3 of a nutmeg. So incorporate the spices thoroughly into the batter. And now pour your cheesecake into the pre-baked, and this is what it looks like, pre-baked, a little bit golden brown around the edges. And place the cheesecake pan, the springform pan, on a square of aluminum foil. And I like to put this around just to prevent any chance of the water in which this cheesecake is baked from leaking into the pan. Get every bit of goodness into that pan. So here we have the base, into which we will now put dollops of pumpkin. You can dot this over the top and just use up all the pumpkin mixture. And then with the skewer, swirl into the base, just like this. And it does get that pumpkin all the way down through the cake. Very nice. Put this in a roasting pan like this with high sides. Transfer to a 325-degree oven. Once it's on the oven shelf, then pour in your boiling water. This is creating a bain-marie effect in a roasting pan. Bake that at 325 degrees until it's slightly wobbly in the center of the cheesecake. That'll take about 75 minutes. So let the cheesecake cool completely. Refrigerate uncovered for at least 24 hours. Run a knife all the way around the perimeter. Release the springform ring. And there you have a really beautiful cheesecake. Slide it onto your serving platter or pedestal. And there you have a spectacular cheesecake for any occasion. An unusual pumpkin pie. First, we make the custard for the filling for the pie. Start with 3 cups of whole milk. We're going to cook the milk with a special blend of spices. A cinnamon stick, a vanilla bean that you can cut open like this with the point of your knife and then scrape out the vanilla seeds. Put the seeds as well as the pod right in the milk. Don't leave any seeds on the board. A vanilla bean has so much flavor, and scraping it like that really releases even more flavor. A nice piece of ginger. This is fresh peeled ginger. And 4 whole cloves and about 10 peppercorns, black peppercorns. Bring this mixture to a boil and reduce by half. And that's the beginning of our pumpkin pie custard. So the custard base has cooled. Now strain. I'm using a fine sieve. It'll strain very nice and smooth. And you're ready to make the rest of the custard. These are your ingredients: 2 eggs, whisk the eggs together with a 15-ounce can of pumpkin puree. Now, most pumpkin, by the way, in the United States is used for pumpkin pie. So mix the pumpkin. The eggs act as the thickener for this mixture. Half a teaspoon of salt, 3/4 of a cup of granulated sugar, the cooled, flavorful, spicy custard. All of this goes right into the pumpkin. That looks beautiful. And pour this right into your pumpkin seed pâte brisée pre-baked crust. This is a beautiful, beautiful crust. And the difference from a regular pre-baked pie crust is that it has pumpkin seeds incorporated right into the dough. Get this right into a preheated 425-degree oven and bake for 15 minutes. Then reduce the heat to 350 degrees and bake until the custard, this beautiful mixture, has just set in the center. And that'll probably be about 25 minutes more. So this is our third little tip for an unusual pumpkin pie. Sift 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar, super fine sugar, over the entire top of the cooled pie, and then torch it. We're going to brûler it. Brûler is the French word for burned. As the sugar warms, it caramelizes. You can see each one of those little bubbles melting, really burning the sugar. It smells good. So just keep passing the flame over the surface of the sugar until the sugar melts and browns. I think we're pretty much done here. But the whole idea is to get a crunchy topping on top of the pie.
And that's the pumpkin cream pie we're going to be making.
And here to show us the recipe is Martha Stewart, Living Food and Entertaining Editorial Director. What a big mouthful.
I know.
And Jennifer Aronson, who you've met before. Jennifer, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
The crust is a ginger snap
Ginger
crust.
snap crust.
And you don't have to make the ginger snaps.
No, store-bought ginger
Okay.
snaps that we grind up in the food processor.
25 to be exact.
Right.
This size.
Yes, so you want to get about 1.25 cups.
Okay, so I'll grind these
It's going
up.
to be loud.
Okay, get the idea?
Yeah.
Okay.
It takes a little bit, and you might get a few clumps, so just sift it out, and
Right.
then you'll wind up with this
So
very
you-
nice
okay.
crumb.
Yeah, that's very nice.
From there, we add 2 tablespoons of sugar, a pinch of salt, and then 4 tablespoons melted butter.
So just like you're making a graham cracker crust.
Yes, the
Okay,
same
or
thing.
a chocolate wafer crust.
Exactly, but
Okay.
this has that nice spiciness to
Yeah.
it, which is perfect with the pumpkin filling.
Yes.
So it just gets mixed together. And this is also a great crust for somebody who might be afraid of pâte brisée.
I know there's so many people who are so afraid of rolling out, and
Yeah.
you know I sent out a tweet today
asking people to ask questions about their pie challenges for this holiday. And so far we've gotten almost 200 questions, and we're going to be answering some of those questions in a little while. But you want me to do this while you make the filling?
So that's
Okay.
just press it in. If you want to use the measuring cup to even it out, you can do that. And then we'll
So you want it up the sides, right?
Up the sides.
Okay.
And even up to the edge is great.
Okay.
Okay, so the filling, so this is an unbaked filling. So this is-
Unbaked. Oh, so it's refrigerated.
Yes.
Oh,
It's a
gelatin or?
No, it's
Oh.
a stirred custard that we then chill in the refrigerator.
Oh, okay. And what about the eggs?
The eggs go, we're going to cook it all in the stove.
Oh, you're cooking it. Oh, it's cooked but not baked. Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
Okay, so 4 egg yolks.
Because if you're buying eggs at supermarket eggs and stuff, you have to cook them.
Yes.
Yes.
4 egg yolks, 1/4 cup of sugar. I like to add the sugar
See,
first.
it's so easy if you use this.
Yes, that
Because
just
it really
tamps
pounds
right
it
down.
down. Yeah.
And then 1/4 cup of cornstarch. This is going to be the thickener. Mix this
Oh, okay.
together.
So that's what's going to thicken it.
Yes.
Is the cornstarch and the eggs themselves.
Exactly.
Egg yolks.
Okay. So to this, we're going to add our warmed milk. And so we have 2 cups of milk over
Do
here.
we pre-bake this crust how long?
Yeah, so this gets chilled for 15 minutes just to set everything together, and then it goes into 350 for 15 minutes. It'll get a little bit golden, darker golden on the bottom. And that's it. That's the total baking for this
Okay.
pie.
And it's okay with the straight side? Mm-hmm. And you can get it out?
It's the first slice is always a little tricky, but after that, the crust holds together
That's one of the
pretty well.
questions that I got on Twitter this morning. How do you get out that piece of
That
pie?
first piece is always a little tricky.
Okay. We're going to answer that question.
Okay, so we have 2
Jennifer
cups.
is going to illustrate it with this pie.
I'll try. I'll try.
She's not prepared for that.
Okay, so for the custard, the milk.
So there, this is a beautiful crust.
Yeah. 1/4 cup of sugar, pinch of salt, and then our wonderful spices.
Okay, so I can add the spices.
Okay, great.
1/4 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. 1/4 and you should use probably clean spoons. You shouldn't mix your spices,
That's
right?
true.
1/4 teaspoon of grated nutmeg. And a pinch, just a pinch of ground cloves, because cloves are really strong.
Very strong.
Okay.
Okay.
And a 1/2 teaspoon
Of the vanilla. And if you like it really spicy, you can add more.
Yes.
Pump them
And
up.
a pinch of salt.
There we go. Okay. So now we want to temper this hot milk mixture into the egg yolks.
Okay.
So we'll just pour in a little bit. If you could whisk just to get that together. And then we'll go back into the pan. Great.
Okay, tempered, bring it up to a hot temperature so you can add it to the other.
Right.
Okay.
We don't want to scramble those yolks, so we want to warm them up before they go into the pan.
Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the spices because we are using today spices from Spice Islands, which sources really high quality spices and herbs from all around the world. And I really trust them because they are strong and fresh, and they come in these glass bottles, which is the best barrier to keep your spices fresh. And these spices don't have any added flavorings, no fillers, no preservatives. And the vanilla extract, I like this vanilla a lot. It has no corn. I didn't even know they put corn syrup in some. This has no corn syrup in it. And Spice Islands has a very nice gift for everyone in the audience. This audience is really lucky. You're going home with a gift box of their premium spices and extracts, along with a recipe for our pumpkin cream pie. Thank you very much, Spice Islands. So nice. So nice. Yeah, and you know, people forget. They sometimes keep cinnamon for a couple years. How many of you have cinnamon in a jar or in a can in your cupboard from 5 years ago? Time to refresh, my dear. Time to get rid of that because it really does lose its potency. And you should use spices. Spices are so good, and they're good for you. Okay, so now that.
Okay, so
Now do we strain that?
we do.
When do we add the pumpkin?
After this has come to a boil,
Okay.
it's going to really get thick. Then we'll add the pumpkin and a tablespoon of butter, and then we'll strain it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, here it comes. It happens pretty quickly. See it coming
Now
together?
add the pumpkin?
Yeah. We'll turn off the heat. Add the pumpkin, 1 1/4 cups of canned pumpkin.
Okay, so canned is fine.
Canned
if
is
you
fine.
have
if you have deconstructed your own pumpkin, which I do. I try to make my own pumpkin puree. You can use that
You can
too.
use that. Just don't use the pie filling.
And 1 tablespoon of butter.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Just
so
don't use pumpkin pie filling.
That's right.
Right.
You just want it to be pure pumpkin.
Yes.
Okay, so there it is. That's the filling. And so, as you can see, this pie, you can make this whole pie in 30 minutes.
I'll take that.
Okay, great. Oops. Now, this goes through the strainer.
So you're straining out what?
Well, you're just really smoothing it out. There's
Okay.
probably nothing in there. Maybe there's a bit of egg or something, but
I'll push.
okay, you push
I
it through.
love doing this. This is so much fun.
You want a strainer that's not too fine because, as you can see, it's quite thick. So this one has.
Turn on the television, watch Martha Stewart Living, or watch something because this takes a while. Okay, and we have one that's already filled.
Right. So here's the strained pumpkin mixture, and
Fill
then
that.
this is our baked shell, and then just right in it goes,
And then chill.
and then chill. Now it has to
So
chill for
nice.
4 hours.
Today I'm combining nutmeg, ginger, and allspice to season an irresistible pumpkin mousse. So into a bowl, break 4 eggs, separating the yolks into the bowl and the whites into your bowl of your mixer. And the machine should be fitted with the wire whisk. I actually can't imagine baking, cooking without my KitchenAid mixer. And it now has more than 15 great attachments. That you can make everything from pasta to ice cream to sausage to salsa and so much more. As the egg whites are beating with the whisk, sprinkle on 1/4 cup of granulated sugar. In a pot on the stove, 1/4 cup of cold water, and I've sprinkled my gelatin, 1 package, right on top of the water. And just stir it over heat quickly until it liquefies. And you pour that right over your yolks. Stir it in, break those egg yolks up, 2 tablespoons of dark rum, and 1/2 teaspoon of best vanilla, 1/2 teaspoon of allspice, the same thing with powdered ginger, a pinch of white pepper, a grating of fresh nutmeg, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 cup plus 2 tablespoons of pumpkin puree. This can be right out of the can or homemade. Stir this all up. And this is 1/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. And make sure you get real maple syrup. So there, that's your base for the mousse. And get this nice and fluffy. That looks good. Fluffy, but not dry. So I'll fold in a little bit to start. There, this looks nice and fluffy. And once the egg whites are folded in, then you fold in your whipped cream. It does smell very autumnal. Now this can be spooned right away into pretty goblets. I like to use all different size goblets. That way, if someone says, oh, just a little, you can give them a little. These will get chilled for at least 2 hours overnight or up to a day. And now I want to show you how to make a simple shortbread press-in pie crust for a pumpkin tart. It's a very good crust and you are going to love it. It's very easy to make. 6 tablespoons of butter that's room temperature, so you can see how nice and soft it is. 1/4 cup of granulated sugar. Stir that in. And 2 large egg yolks. So stir these in. Add 1½ teaspoons of salt. And it just really brings out all the flavors. And to this, add your unbleached flour, 1½ cups. So here we have a cup. It doesn't have to be sifted. It's very silky smooth. And we're going to press this dough right into a 10-inch removable bottom tart pan or quiche pan, something that we should all have in our closet. So scrape down your bowl, and this will come together. Looks a little crumbly, but it does press into a very delicate and beautiful shortbread. Put this right into the pan, and press it in with your fingers like this. And you're going to raise the crust up the sides of the pan. You're going to push it, but you see it's already taking form. And I'm using the bottom of the cup to press the shortbread right into the bottom of the tart shell. Put this in the freezer for 20 minutes. This is the frozen crust. Put this in a preheated 375-degree oven for approximately 12 to 15 minutes. Now, here's the filling. This is made out of a 15-ounce can of solid pack pumpkin. You can make your own pumpkin, of course. And to this, we're going to add 2 eggs. Just beat the eggs right into the pumpkin puree. I find that the canned pumpkin works really well. You get a very smooth and glossy pumpkin pie using the canned pumpkin. So here, this looks good. Now add 3/4 of a cup of sugar, just plain white sugar. And I think that the white sugar also makes a very shiny tart. Stir that in. 1 cup of heavy cream. This also makes a shiny pie. And now the spices and the flavoring. 1 teaspoon of best quality vanilla. 1 teaspoon of salt. 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. 1/2 teaspoon of ground ginger. And 1/4 teaspoon of ground allspice. Now you can overdo the spices, so measure carefully and don't overspice. It smells perfect. Now this gets spooned right into the pre-baked shortbread crust. Now notice that I'm using a parchment-lined rimmed baking sheet, just in case anything flowed over. You don't have to clean your oven in addition to a pan. This is a very sensible way to bake a tart like this. Just get that right into the oven. It's now 325 degrees, and it'll stay in for 55 to 60 minutes until it is set in the center. So see what I was talking about? A nice glossy tart. This is very pretty. Now release it. It's been chilled. And you release the ring. Don't try to take it off the metal bottom because it's not going to come off easily. This can, go right onto your cake stand, and that is gorgeous. And using a serrated sharp knife, cut right into this beautiful tart. Use a damp cloth to wipe the knife after each cut. Now, how big a piece do you want? And here's our second piece, 1 for you and 1 for me. And you can just lift this right off the middle bottom. I always like to cut 2 pieces and take out the second piece first. Don't know why, but oftentimes that works very, very well. So here's 1 piece, very nice slice, and our second piece. This is a lovely, lovely looking tart. And the crust is equally lovely. A dollop, of course, of whipped cream. So here you have our baking bonus for today, a shortbread pumpkin tart.
Well, if you're looking for a change from the traditional pumpkin pie, Brad Farmery is back to share a recipe for pumpkin mousse cheesecake, which was your mom's?
It is my mother's. I call it Linda Farmery's famous pumpkin mousse cheesecake.
Aha.
She really, anytime I give this to anybody, they always want the recipe and they refuse to eat regular pumpkin pie after that. So
okay, well, I'm
take
ready.
my word for it.
I'm
You will
ready
too.
to taste.
Great.
So I've made a graham cracker crust out of graham crackers, sugar, and butter.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, so the simple, traditional
Exactly.
graham cracker crust.
And yeah, you can use a fork or a spatula or even your hands if
Do you
they're-
know that my mom had a cheesecake too with a sour cream topping that she was famous for?
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Should get our mothers together.
Yeah. Well, I wish we could. We can't.
So we're going to go ahead and press that in, and over here
All
we've
in
got
it, just up the sides or just on the bottom?
Well, I think just on the bottom. And this
Okay.
can go into a quiche mold or into a springform pan or into a pie pan, whatever shape you like.
Okay.
But for me, this just
The squares work, right?
it does, and it's just a taste of home. So
Now, do you pre-bake this?
I don't. I
Oh,
don't. We're going to
great.
throw on a cheesecake layer, which is just 1 block of Philadelphia cream cheese,
Okay.
2 eggs, and some sugar.
Oh, that good old Philadelphia cream cheese.
You know it, yeah.
And don't get the fat-free kind.
Please don't.
No.
Please don't.
And don't-
It's Thanksgiving. Come on.
Yes.
If you need
But it doesn't
less
taste-
calories, just whisk it by hand.
It doesn't taste as good, right?
It definitely does not. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and whip this up until it gets nice and smooth and frothy. And I think the best thing about this and the best thing about any of my Thanksgiving recipes is almost all of them can be done the day ahead. You know, Thanksgiving
That's important.
It's about spending time with your loved ones and your family. So you should not be running around like a headless chicken. You should be spending time.
Headless turkeys.
Headless turkey, to be fair. I'm not quite sure how this works.
Oh, here, it lifts up. No, you have to unlock it. Okay.
See, I'm still learning.
It's not quite mixed, but
We'll
you
give
gonna
that
add
a
other
quick
things to it.
a quick once over.
That's not in there tight. Okay. So should I mix it a little
I
bit
think
more?
so, yeah.
Okay.
Just until it's nice and frothy.
Okay.
And then, yeah, that will go on top. And we've preheated our oven to 350 degrees.
So no pumpkin goes in this. This
No.
is the cheesecake part.
Cheesecake,
Okay.
yeah.
So I'll spread that. You want to
Thank
make
you.
the cheesecake part?
Yeah.
I mean the pumpkin part.
Yeah, so the pumpkin, we use good old-fashioned canned pumpkin, just like everybody does. Although the first time I made this was in London, and there was no canned pumpkin. And so I had to roast pumpkins whole, and it was a disaster. So
No,
trust me,
but it was good, wasn't it?
It was good, but this is plain and simple and quite easy. So we've taken canned pumpkin. We're going to add milk.
Canned pumpkin is one of the few cans I open because it's pretty much a stable, simple ingredient.
It is. It is. It's consistent too. And so we're going to add half a cup of sugar.
Does it matter that I have a few lumps of cheese in here?
I'm going to say no, only because we're friends. But
Yes.
if you worked for me, Martha, it might be a different
You
story.
mixed it.
I know. So I'm going to add 3 egg yolks.
You rushed me on my own show.
Not many people can say that, trust me. And a 1/4 teaspoon of salt.
Okay.
And I'm going to go ahead and mix this up. So that will go into the oven, 350 degrees.
Oh, by itself?
Yep, for
Oh, okay.
20 minutes.
Okay, so we have one that's already baked.
Yeah. And so this pumpkin
yummy.
mixture, as soon as I started making this, my son always says cinnamon because it's got that great
That
traditional
smell,
cinnamon
yes.
smell. And this goes over a double boiler. Basically, it's going to cook for about 8 minutes, just until those egg yolks start to thicken up a little bit.
So is this one done enough?
That is, it's beautiful. You can see it's thick. It's actually gone a little bit more
Yes.
opaque. And then you can add the gelatin, which is...
Right while it's hot?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, has been softened with a bit of water.
Oh, okay.
And then we're going to go ahead and whisk that just until it incorporates. And then it gets pulled off to room temperature.
Oh, and this changes the consistency totally.
Yeah. And once it goes to room temperature, it will be, it looks a bit thin there, but once it goes to room temperature, it will thicken right up to something a little bit more like this.
I see. Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so here we've made a meringue. This might seem complicated, but at the end of the day, you can make this in about half an hour, start to finish, and then your whole day is free the next day. How's that taste so far?
Good. So this is the baked cheese mixture.
Yep. Cheesecake, pumpkin mousse.
Yes, with you can see the crust on the bottom.
So we're going to go ahead
So
and...
that goes into here?
Yeah, I don't want to rush you, though, Martha, this
No,
time.
don't worry.
I learned my lesson. So we're going to go ahead and actually, if this comes
Yeah, you
off,
can shake that off.
I kind of like to just use this to mix it in as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you can get that for me, it'd be great.
I certainly can. Okay, so we want to refrigerate. Once it's baked, you want to refrigerate it, right?
Yep. Yeah. So this pumpkin mousse will go on, and you can refrigerate it overnight.
Oh, so this doesn't get baked now?
No.
Oh,
no.
okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
at
it's
least
fun.
8 hours, but overnight is best. So yeah, we can incorporate air and just, I know at this point all the pastry chefs of the world will tell you don't mix it too much, but my mother's been doing this for almost 40 years,
she
and
work
she'll
in the
tell you
restaurant
differently.
ever?
She does not. And I love her
Does she
even
want
more
to?
for it. So she does not want to be in the kitchen with me, that's
No?
for sure. I think we both appreciate each other's cooking, but I think she's very set in her ways, as am I.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah, yeah. So I'll go ahead and pour this over top.
Okay.
Actually, if I tilt it and you can... There you go.
This looks so good.
Yeah, this really is amazing. I think we're doing our country a favor by sharing this recipe.
I mean, because pumpkin is indigenous to our to us too.
This will be a memorable one. Great way to end a long Thanksgiving meal. So,
Okay, so-
much lighter.
So just
and
nice
yeah,
and-
you can
nice
even
and
just
flat.
tilt it and shake it, and
Okay.
whatever gets into
Level
all the
it
corners.
out.
There you go. You can even leave a bit of texture on top if you like it. Kind of like that rustic look.
So don't we have a piece for me to taste?
Oh, yes, we do. And so you can do creme fraiche, you can do yogurt, you can do whatever you want on the side.
But look how pretty it is. It looks like striped.
Yeah, it's
Very
It really
pretty.
is pretty amazing, and as I said, to eat it is to love it. That's the way that.
It's actually really good.
Thank you.
I think I'll serve this on my Thanksgiving table also, Brad.
Please do.
Thanks to you. I'm going to open a can of pumpkin puree. It tastes really good, and you can use it in good conscience. So you need 15 ounces of pure pumpkin puree and 3 whole eggs, and mix those together with a whisk. And this makes a very, very tasty pie filling. But that squash that I showed at the top of the puree that I was eating at the top of the show from that Italian squash, that is so delicious. I'm going to look around here and see if there are any more of those squashes and ferret them home. They're going into my freezer as puree. Okay, so that's mixed in. Add 1 can of evaporated milk, which is a 12-ounce can. And it has to be evaporated milk. Another can that I must open. Yes. It's fun when you live without cans. The other thing I open cans for, sardines. I like sardines. And those are in cans. But if you come to my pantry, rarely do you find a can. So here, yummy. Half a teaspoon of salt. Very important in fillings that are mostly sweet to add a little bit of salt. 3/4 of a cup of light brown sugar. 3/4 of a teaspoon of powdered ginger. If you'd like, you can add very, very finely chopped candied ginger too. It adds a nice flavor. 3/4 of a teaspoon of cinnamon. 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. And a teaspoon of vanilla extract. The very, very best you can find. Oh, and don't forget a little grating of one of my favorite spices, which is nutmeg. And like a 1/3 of a nutmeg. I always grind them myself, grate them myself because they're so flavorful like that. And then stir this up, and as soon as you get all the lumps of sugar out, and it's a good idea to break up the brown sugar. If you have opened your bag and let it gotten rock hard, don't use that in your pie. You're going to be left with great big lumps of brown sugar. You can soften a box of brown sugar that you've had open with put a piece of like a half an apple, cut apple, right into the bag. Put it in a Ziploc bag, and within a matter of a day, the sugar is nice and moist again. I hope you all know that. Just another little tip. Now, the crust. See, when you bake it correctly, look what happens. You have this beautiful crust, and look at the bottom, this beautiful golden brown color. That's exactly the way you want your crust, because then the crust is going to be nice and crispy instead of soggy and undercooked. It's not so nice to cut open a pie and have that soggy, uncooked crust. Pour your filling in. Your oven's preheated to 325 and bake for 50 to 55 minutes until the center of the custard is set. It can still be a tiny bit wobbly, but you don't want to have it rock hard. There. So get that cooked. This is what it looks like when it comes out of the oven. Very nice. And I've chilled it. We've whipped our meringue. This is 8 egg whites and 2 cups of sugar added slowly. And you just spoon this, as you saw on the video. Well, it's not really a video. It's
Gail, come on up, Gail and Missy. Join me. Do you remember how many photographs it took to do the pie?
Well, we can do as many as 180 photographs, and then it turns into a video. It's a stop action.
Oh,
but it's one still picture after another,
Right.
and that's what makes it so much fun to look
But
at.
how did you take the pictures without any spatulas or spoons or anything in the
it's
picture?
all a lie.
It looks more like magic than
It does look like magic.
Yeah,
That's what's so
really.
fun about the digital issue. You have the opportunity to do a lot of really fun
Yeah.
things.
Are you going to make this pie for Thanksgiving, Gail?
Absolutely.
I mean,
I've been taking notes.
Actually, I've tasted it when we were doing the cover shot, and it is really good.
Oh, the video of you on the cover is so cute.
Oh.
So all of you who have your digital issues, I hope you'll look at that.
So here we have this beautiful, beautiful meringue. And who's good with the propane torch? Which one of you?
Not me.
Not Missy? But Missy, she's a good runner. Were you biking or running this weekend with your girls?
I did a half-mile run with my girls. My husband was doing the triathlon in Barcelona, so a little bit different.
And he did it
but
under 3 hours?
He did 2.5, a little over 2.5.
wow.
Yeah.
Barcelona, Spain. And he left you all home.
Yep.
But he must feel good. Did he come back yet?
He's on a plane as we speak.
Oh, boy. Amazing. And your girls, didn't they do a bike ride, too?
Yeah, no, they
it
just
was
did
a
a
run.
run, but they got their
Oh.
first medals, so they were very excited.
For some reason, this is not as high as it should be. I don't know why. Maybe the meringue sat around a little bit too long. But this...
It looks fabulous.
It looks fantastic, yes. So now I'm making little nooks and crannies. And Gail, you're good with the propane
never
torch.
used one.
You haven't?
No.
Oh my gosh! Here, let me see.
I'm willing to learn.
Why aren't I turning this on right? Oh, there. Malfunction.
What do you do? What
I
do you
think
do?
somebody
Just
left
press
it
the
on.
button.
It's all out. Malfunction. Do you have another one?
I think you just press the button.
I'm pressing.
Let's see.
It's.
Okay, that one.
Well, no. Oh, that's. I'll do it. And do not use the butane. Don't use a welding torch. If your husband's a welder, stay away from that. You don't need to go there. But look at this is like magic when you brown the meringue with this. There. Oh, so beautiful. Isn't that great?
Beautiful.